Hello, my mathematicians. Today we are going to be looking at 5.7, which is talking about writing zeros into the dividend. Now, so far all the problems that we have solved have worked themselves out evenly. We've had what we would say no remainder, nothing left over. But sometimes when dividing with decimals, there are things that are left over. But we don't write them as a remainder because you can't have a decimal and a remainder. So then this would also work with whole numbers as well. So we're going to look at one problem where there's a decimal, one problem that is both whole numbers, and we're going to see how this turns out. And in order to help us solve this, we'll be adding zeros to our dividend. So our first problem is 45 and 8/10 divided by 4. Okay, so we're going to start out dividing just like we normally would. 4 goes into 4 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. We subtract, that gives us 0. Bring down our 5. 4 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. We subtract, we get 1. We bring down our 8. 4 goes into 18 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. We subtract, we get 2. So in this case, previously we would just have had a remainder of 2. But now, we are going to add a 0 onto my dividend and bring that down. So now we're dealing with 20. So 4 goes into 20 how many times? 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. We subtract, we get 0. Then we just bring my decimal straight up. So we get 11 and 45 hundredths as my answer. So when dealing with decimals, it's pretty straightforward. You just add a 0 until you get zeros down here. So if it didn't work out evenly here, we would add another 0, brought it down, and kept going. Okay? Now, what if we are working with whole numbers? So it's the same concept, but just you have to think about it a little bit differently. So let's look at 372 divided by 15. 15 doesn't go into 3, but it does go into 37, and it's going to go into it 2 times. 2 times 15 is 30. 37 minus 30 is 7. Bring down your 2. How many times does 15 go into 72? Well, it's going to go into it 4 times. 4 times 15 is 60. We subtract, we get 12. Okay? Now, because this is a whole number, we can't just add a 0, because if we just added a 0, it would change our place value. But we can add a decimal point and then add a 0. Okay? So with a whole number, you're going to add a decimal point and then the 0. And bring it down. How many times does 15 go into 120? That's going to go into it 8 times. And 8 times 15 is 120. So we subtract, we get 0. Then you bring your decimal straight up. So our answer is 24 and 8/10. So what this means, and the purpose of this lesson, is when you have divided and you have no more numbers in your dividend to bring down, but we still have stuff left over when we subtract. That is when you add a 0 to your dividend. If it's a decimal, you just add a 0 and bring it down. If it's a whole number, you need to add that decimal point before you add the 0. That way, you don't lose your place values. Okay? I'm going to leave you with one question to answer, and then I'm going to have you rate your level of understanding using FIST to 5. I know that this can be a little bit of a more complicated topic to understand, so please don't worry if you don't quite understand it yet. We will spend plenty of time tomorrow going over this.